Okay, so the cooldown from lesson 19 is basically asking for a proof of vertical angles theorem. Now, the way that this diagram is labeled definitely lends itself to the algebraic proof rather than a transformative proof, a transformational proof, because we don't have labeled points, we only have labeled angle measures. So a good strategy for this cooldown would be to explain why these two angles have the same measure by describing them in terms of linear pairs that are supplementary. Okay? So in order to do this, we need to choose two linear pairs that include either A or C. Right? So we're going to say that A and D A degrees plus D degrees equals 180 degrees. Actually, for the purposes of this, we can get rid of the degrees. We don't need this. A plus D equals 180 because the angles with A and D degrees are a linear pair, so they are supplementary. So we have these two, A and D. Now we need to include D and C because we need to be able to subtract out this angle. So we're going to do D and C. And then the reason is exactly the same, so we'll say for the same reason. Okay. So now I've got these two equations, A plus D equals 180 and D plus C equals 180. So now we can say that A plus D equals D plus C because both sides of the equation are equal to 180. Or we can say by substitution. Let's just say by substitution. Instead of 180, I can replace that with D plus C. So we'll say by substitution. Now, this will allow us to do some algebra on this. We have D, which is the same angle measure on both sides. So we can say that A equals C by subtracting D from both sides. That's it. Well, that's what we were trying to prove. We were trying to prove that A equals C. So we have this pair of angles, A and D, this pair of angles, D and C. When we subtract out the D in the middle, we get A equals C.